Wait, what is he doing here? Someone gasped as the ballroom doors swung open, silencing the crowd. Darius Reed, billionaire tech mogul and the most powerful man in the room, strode in with icy determination, his gaze locked on the woman being escorted out in disgrace. In that moment, the laughter died, the phones dropped, and everyone realized the woman they had just humiliated was not only his wife, but the real power behind everything they thought they understood. The envelope was heavier than expected. Monica Reed turned it over in her hands, fingers brushing over the embossed gold lettering. Sabrina Ellison and Nathaniel Voss cordially invite you. She blinked. Sabrina Ellison. It had been over 20 years since she'd last heard that name, and even then, the memories weren't exactly warm. Sabrina had always floated through high school like royalty, flawless hair, flawless clothes, and a heart as cold as the December wind in Baltimore. Monica, in contrast, had been the quiet one, the scholarship kid, the daughter of a nurse and a retired Navy cook, a girl with natural curls, thrift store cardigans, and an old sketchbook always tucked under her arm. Their worlds had never truly touched, but Sabrina's gaze had always found Monica mocking, dismissive, like Monica's mere existence was some kind of punchline. And now, 20 years and a full life later, here it was, an invitation to the wedding of the woman who once wouldn't even speak her name. Monica hesitated. The card's ivory surface shimmered under the light of her small kitchen. For a second, she almost tossed it aside. But something about the handwritten note inside stopped her. Dearest Monica, I know it's been years, but it would mean the world to me if you were there on my big day. I've always admired your strength. Please come. Sabrina. Monica stared at the elegant script, heart conflicted. She hadn't kept up with the high school crowd, she didn't have time. These days, her life revolved around the little art center she ran in West Baltimore, her community kids, and quiet nights with tea and jazz records. But she wasn't naive. She knew Sabrina Ellison had become a social media powerhouse, part luxury influencer, part socialite, and all spectacle. Her wedding was already making the rounds on celebrity blogs, rumors of a $4 million budget, rooftop views of Manhattan, private chefs, and imported orchids. Monica had no business being there. Yet, she couldn't shake the thought. What if she really meant it? What if people do change? And just like that, against her better judgment, Monica Reed decided to go. Sabrina, seated on a velvet chaise in her Fifth Avenue penthouse, flicked through the digital guest list on her iPad. Her lips curled as her eyes stopped at one name. Monica Reed. She's coming, she said with a syrupy tone that didn't quite mask the edge. Across the room, her friends Tessa Monroe, Paige Keller, and Lauren Brooks sipped champagne in matching satin robes, each more meticulously groomed than the last. Monica? Tessa raised a perfectly sculpted brow. You mean Moaning Monica? The one with the handmade shoes and the poetry notebook? That's the one, Sabrina said, eyes glinting with malicious glee. She's going to be our special guest. Special how? Lauren asked, grinning over the rim of her glass. Sabrina tilted her head dramatically. She'll be the center of attention, of course. Just not in the way she's hoping for. Laughter rippled through the room like poisoned perfume. 3 weeks later, Monica stepped out of a yellow cab and found herself facing the grand facade of the Aria, one of Manhattan's most opulent private hotels. Sunlight glinted off marble steps and glittering chandeliers suspended behind floor-to-ceiling glass. Her seafoam green linen dress caught a breeze, fluttering gently as she adjusted her vintage clutch and took a breath. She had made the dress herself, just as she made all her clothes. Not out of poverty, but out of purpose. It was her art. It was her way of honoring her mother's quiet creativity and her own roots. But now, surrounded by women in sequins, heels, and custom couture, Monica suddenly felt small. Still, she walked forward with grace. Inside, the scene was dizzying. Glittering gowns swirled across polished marble floors. Men in designer tuxedos toasted with Dom Perignon beneath towering floral arrangements and golden chandeliers. Every guest looked airbrushed, edited, and unreal. Monica moved slowly, offering a kind smile to the staff, who looked more relaxed than the guests. She had barely made it 10 steps into the foyer when it happened. A tall blonde woman with a clipboard and headset stepped in front of her. "Excuse me, ma'am," she asked briskly. "The staff entrance is through the side corridor." Monica blinked. I'm a guest," she said, lifting the invitation from her purse. The woman took it, scrutinized the name, and her demeanor shifted slightly, though her tone remained clipped. "Of course. Please proceed." But the damage had been done. Several nearby guests were now whispering, their eyes narrowing at the sight of Monica's modest dress and natural hair. "Who wears linen to a wedding like this?" someone muttered. "Did she wander in from the sidewalk?" Sabrina spotted her across the ballroom and immediately glided forward in a dress that shimmered like moonlight. "Monica," she cooed, air-kissing the space beside her cheek. "You look just the same. So sweet. So authentic." The words were daggers coated in honey. Monica smiled politely. "Congratulations, Sabrina. This place is stunning. Isn't it?" Sabrina replied, linking her arm through Monica's and guiding her into the room. Eyes followed them. Laughter hushed behind sequin clutches. Monica tried to steady her nerves. She didn't belong here. Not really. Moments later, Sabrina excused herself and whispered something to Tessa, Paige, and Lauren. They didn't even try to hide their stares. Tessa sauntered over first, a camera already open on her phone. "Wow," she said with a fake smile, angling the lens. "Mind if I snap a photo?" It's rare to see someone so unfiltered. Monica blinked. "Excuse me?" "Oh, come on," Paige chimed in from behind. "We're just celebrating diversity." "You're so real, Monica. Like, truly grassroots." The laughter was soft, but pointed. Before Monica could reply, a tall woman in a ruby-red gown accidentally bumped into her, spilling a full glass of wine down her front. Gasps followed. The red stain spread across the green linen like blood. Monica stepped back, stunned. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Lauren said dramatically, dabbing at the fabric with a cocktail napkin that only made it worse. Just as Monica tried to compose herself, a shrill voice rang out from the stage. "Excuse me, everyone," Sabrina called sweetly, drawing the room's attention. "We have a minor issue. One of our guests brought a package that hasn't been properly cleared." Murmurs rippled through the room. Sabrina's eyes met Monica's. "Monica, darling, would you mind letting security check the gift you brought?" Monica stiffened. "It's just a quilt," she said quietly. "Something I made by hand." "Yes, and in today's world, we just have to be cautious," Sabrina said with a faux concerned tone. Two uniformed men approached. Monica hesitated, then handed over the carefully wrapped package. They opened it right there, pulling out the handmade embroidered quilt, soft pastels, swirling vines, and delicate needlework. The kind of gift that spoke of love, time, and intention. The laughter was immediate. "A blanket," someone snorted. "What is this, a baby shower?" "How quaint," Paige said, her voice thick with disdain. Sabrina raised her flute. "Let's all give Monica a round of applause for the most original gift tonight." Applause echoed in cruel sarcasm. Monica stood frozen, red wine soaking her dress, her quilt draped awkwardly in the arms of a security guard, the entire ballroom basking in her humiliation. Sabrina's voice dropped as she leaned in close and whispered, "You really thought you belonged here?" Then she turned, waving to the guards. "Escort her out, please. This is a very delicate event." As the two men gently took Monica by the arms, the crowd parted, not in respect, but in glee. Phones were raised. Whispered commentary floated through the air like poisonous confetti. Monica's vision blurred, but she held her head high. Each step toward the exit echoed like thunder. She didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal, the cruelty, or the fact that deep down, part of her had actually hoped this night would be different. That maybe, just maybe, she'd be seen. She didn't yet know who was about to walk through those grand glass doors. She didn't know the power her name held. But within minutes, the woman they had laughed at would become the name no one would dare forget. Just as Monica's heels tapped against the marble floor, flanked by 2 towering security guards, the grand ballroom seemed to hold its collective breath. The laughter hadn't stopped echoing yet, and the sting of it clung to her skin more fiercely than the wine that still dampened the front of her handmade dress. She could feel dozens of eyes burning into her back, some amused, others indifferent, none compassionate. Her fingers trembled around the frayed corner of the embroidered quilt she had sewn stitch by stitch, now balled up and humiliated like her spirit. The doors loomed ahead, tall, ornate, final. One more step and she'd be gone, just another nameless guest ejected from the illusion of high society. And that's when it happened. A low rumble outside. Engines, deep, throaty, powerful. The kind that didn't announce themselves unless they belonged to someone who didn't need introductions. Conversation in the ballroom stuttered. Heads turned. Sabrina, still radiant under the crystal chandelier, squinted toward the entrance, her smile faltering for the first time that night. The doormen straightened at attention. Through the glass facade, headlights swept into view, sleek black Bentleys gliding across the circular drive like shadows of authority. The first door opened with silent grace. A tall, sharply dressed man stepped out, the late evening light catching the clean edge of his black suit and the glint of his silver cufflinks. His movements were unhurried, deliberate. Controlled power. Gasps broke the tension. A ripple passed through the room like an electric current. Monica stopped. The guards beside her froze. One of them whispered, almost in disbelief, "Is that Darius Reed?" Someone breathed behind them. The name hit the ballroom like a tidal wave. Darius Reed, CEO of Reed Global Solutions. The man Forbes had called the silent titan. Billionaire. Innovator. Philanthropist. And Monica's husband. Sabrina's expression cracked, her eyes wide and jaw tightening. She turned instinctively toward her trio of tormentors, Tessa, Paige, and Lauren, all 3 ghost pale. He wasn't on the guest list, she hissed. He wasn't invited. Darius moved with a quiet authority, the crowd parting as if choreographed, not by invitation but by instinct. He didn't smile. His gaze was laser-focused on one person, his wife, standing small but unbroken near the exit. He walked up to her, the hush in the room so thick not even a glass dared to clink. Monica looked up, her lips parted in shock. "Darius," she whispered. He reached her, gently taking the stained quilt from her trembling hands and setting it aside. Then he cupped her face with a tenderness that melted the cold around them. "I'm sorry I'm late," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I shouldn't have let you come alone." Monica blinked, her voice barely a breath. "I didn't want to make a scene." "You didn't," Darius said, eyes narrowing as he scanned the room. "But they did. And now, I will." He turned to face the sea of eyes, some still curious, some stunned, some terrified of what was to come. "Good evening," he said, voice calm, resonant, unshaken. "I know many of you weren't expecting me. I wasn't on the program. But the woman you just tried to humiliate in front of this entire room is not just some forgotten guest from the past. She is my wife." Audible gasps broke across the room like popcorn. "Her name is Monica Reed. And not only is she my life partner, but she is also the co-founder of Reed Global Solutions. The very company whose software runs half your portfolios and whose infrastructure keeps your digital secrets safe." The air snapped like a whip. Sabrina's legs wobbled. Tessa took an unconscious step back. Darius kept going, each word hammering deeper. "You judged her based on what she wore. You mocked her gift. You assumed, because she didn't glitter the way you do, that she didn't belong here. That she was less. But Monica has quietly led some of the most important philanthropic initiatives across this country, funding after-school programs, creating shelter networks, building art therapy centers in underserved communities. While many of you were busy broadcasting your lives for attention, she was out there changing lives without needing credit. Someone dropped their phone. The clatter was jarring in the silence. Monica's breath caught in her throat, eyes glassy with emotion, but Darius wasn't done. And tonight, he continued, you made her feel like trash. You spilled wine on her. You laughed at her. You tried to throw her out. His voice hardened. But you made one mistake. You did it in public. And now, the truth will be, too. Just then, another voice spoke from the center of the crowd. Darius, may I? It was Nathaniel Voss, the groom. His face was taut with tension, his hands clenched at his sides. Darius nodded once. Nathaniel stepped forward, slowly turning to face the stunned assembly. Most of you don't know this, he began, but Reed Global was the first company to take a chance on me when I had nothing but a shaky idea and a 6-month eviction notice. And it wasn't Darius alone. Monica Reed, this incredible woman, was the one who sat with me night after night, helping me refine my pitch deck, challenging my ideas, making me better. She didn't care how I dressed. She didn't care where I came from. She saw my potential. He turned to face Sabrina, who now stood stiff as glass. You lied, he said simply. You told everyone you introduced me to Darius. You made my success part of your story. But it was never yours to claim. And after what I've witnessed tonight, I'm calling off this wedding. Audible shock swept the room. Sabrina's mouth dropped open. Nathaniel, no, he said firmly, turning his back on her. You embarrassed an extraordinary woman for nothing but your ego. I won't be part of that. Sabrina staggered backward, her hand reaching out to no one. Her perfectly powdered cheeks paled. Around her, Tessa, Paige, and Lauren were frozen, too stunned to whisper. Darius stepped closer to Monica, wrapping a strong arm around her shoulder, shielding her not just from view but from further harm. Let's go, he said gently. But Monica paused. Wait, she whispered, her voice still shaky but rising. There's something I need to do. She stepped forward, eyes fixed on the crowd that had once turned its back. She lifted her chin and spoke clearly. I came tonight because I believed people could change. I believed an old classmate might want to reconnect. I made this quilt with love. I wore what made me feel like me. But now I know, my value never depended on your approval. Her voice cracked but held. I'm not leaving in shame. I'm leaving in truth. Then she turned to Darius, who smiled with pride, and together, they walked toward the exit. This time, no one dared stop them. Phones that had been raised in ridicule were now lowered in shame. The silence in their wake was heavier than any insult, because it carried the weight of realization. That perhaps, tonight, they hadn't witnessed a scandal. They'd witnessed a reckoning. But as the ballroom doors opened wide and Monica stepped into the night, the cameras outside the hotel caught it all, the embrace between two powerful souls, the protective hand of a husband wrapped around his wife, and the unmistakable glow of a woman who had just reclaimed her worth. And somewhere behind them, a room full of so-called elites realized too late that they had not just humiliated a woman, they had exposed their own shallowness for the world to see. The silence left in Monica and Darius's wake was not one of peace but of reckoning. Inside the grand ballroom, the atmosphere once thick with champagne and self-importance now hung heavy with shame. Eyes that once gleamed with amusement now darted nervously toward the exits, and fingers itched to delete posts and wipe away evidence of complicity. But it was too late. The spectacle had already turned into a scandal, and the woman they had tried to humiliate had just walked out with her dignity intact, and the arm of one of the most powerful men in America wrapped firmly around her waist. And that was just the beginning. Moments later, Darius's assistant, Camille, a poised woman in a tailored black pantsuit with sleek dark hair and a face that revealed nothing but efficiency, stepped briskly into the ballroom. She moved like she belonged there, cutting through the crowd with the precision of someone used to commanding silence in boardrooms 10 floors above Wall Street. Her tablet was already in hand, her earpiece glowing. She found Darius and nodded once. Security footage and all relevant social media content are being archived now, she said, her voice low but sharp. We're identifying every user who posted, tagged, and encouraged the public mockery of Mrs. Reed. Darius didn't blink. Good. No one gets a pass. Within minutes, 3 suited hotel security officers approached the center of the ballroom. All conversation ceased. Eyes turned. Tessa Monroe, Paige Keller, and Lauren Brooks, the once glittering trio, stood frozen in their stilettos. Their confident laughter from earlier now seemed like echoes from a forgotten world. Miss Monroe, one of the guards said, his tone professionally neutral. Please come with us. Tessa's eyes widened. Wait, what is this? She whispered, grabbing Paige's wrist. We were just joking, but her voice faltered under the weight of dozens of judgmental stares and the presence of Camille, now watching closely from nearby. Paige tried to intervene. Look, we didn't mean it. It was just a bit of fun. But even she didn't sound convinced. The guards didn't argue. With quiet firmness, they began escorting them one by one through the ballroom, their heels clicking against the marble floor now sounding more like handcuffs than high fashion. Whispers rose. Phones filmed again, but this time, the focus had shifted. Jessica, the influencer who had spilled wine on Monica, stood alone near the bar, her once flawless face now cracked with dread. She stepped back, clearly anticipating her turn. Darius's voice rang out with calm finality. Ms. Brooks, he said. Your actions tonight were not just cruel, they were calculated. And now, they come with consequences. Jessica opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came. Security led her out next, past tables that had applauded her not 30 minutes earlier. Not one person reached out to stop them. While the cleanup continued, Monica stood quietly in the suite Camille had arranged upstairs, a luxurious room filled with soft gold lighting and a full-length mirror framed in mahogany. A delicate white gown now hung on the wardrobe door, simple yet elegant, with satin that shimmered like moonlight over still water. Camille entered softly, holding a pair of pearl earrings. Mrs. Reed, she said with a kind smile. They're waiting. Monica looked at her reflection. The stains were gone. The hurt lingered, but it no longer held power over her. She took a breath and changed into the gown, the soft fabric wrapping around her like armor made of grace. Her hair, loosened from its earlier bun, fell in soft waves around her shoulders. She stepped into her heels, not too high, just enough, and walked out with the quiet strength of a woman who had nothing to prove and everything to show. The ballroom doors opened, and for a moment, time paused. Every guest turned. No whispers. No gasps. Only a rising tide of awe and reverence. Monica stood framed in the archway, radiant in white, the light catching on her earrings and the softness of her confident smile. And then, slowly, one by one, the guests stood. This time, they didn't stand to watch a show. They stood in respect. Applause began, soft, hesitant, and then swelled into something more real than anything they'd offered all night. Darius stepped forward and offered his hand. She took it, and together they walked to the center of the room. Standing beside her was Nathaniel Voss, the groom who had canceled his wedding to a woman he now realized had been lying to him all along. He stepped forward, head bowed in humility. Mrs. Reed, he said, voice steady. I owe you an apology, not just for what happened tonight, but for every moment I failed to see the truth. I allowed myself to be used. I stood silent while you were humiliated, and I'll never forgive myself for that. Monica gently placed a hand on his shoulder, her tone gracious but firm. Nathaniel, silence in the face of cruelty is a mistake, but recognizing it and choosing a different path is strength. You did that tonight. Nathaniel's eyes shone with gratitude. Thank you, he said simply. Darius stepped forward and took the microphone near the grand piano. His voice filled the space, not loud, but grounded with conviction. Tonight, we witnessed something ugly. Something we see too often. Judgments based on appearance. On class. On race. Cruelty disguised as humor. arrogance masked as elegance. And we saw where it leads. He looked around, eyes settling on each person long enough to make them feel seen. But we also saw something else. We saw the strength of character, the power of humility, and the truth that real grace doesn't need diamonds or cameras. It shines all on its own. Then he turned to Monica. This woman, my wife, is the reason Reed Global became what it is. She is the heart behind every outreach initiative, the mind behind every employee wellness policy, and the soul behind every dollar we donate. His voice cracked just slightly, emotion catching up to him. And tonight, I watched her endure more than anyone ever should. But she didn't break. She rose. Monica stepped forward, eyes calm and full of light. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft but unwavering. For many years, I lived quietly. I didn't need attention. I believed in helping without needing thanks. But tonight reminded me that silence isn't always strength. Sometimes, standing tall and speaking with grace is how we create change. She paused. You judged me before you knew me. But I forgive you, not because it was deserved, but because I refused to carry bitterness in a heart built for compassion. A hush fell once more. Some guests wept. Others lowered their heads. But no one looked away. In the corner of the room, Camille received another message on her tablet and leaned in to whisper to Darius. He nodded. For those wondering, he added, all content related to Mrs. Reed's humiliation tonight has already been flagged and removed. And we are pursuing legal action against any individuals or media outlets that try to use it for profit. The announcement landed like a gavel. The message was clear: this would not be turned into clickbait. Justice was not just poetic, it was strategic. The night carried on in a new light. Guests, once consumed by image, now approached Monica with sincerity. They offered apologies, not out of fear, but reflection. Many confessed their own biases. Some admitted they had laughed, but not anymore. Monica accepted every apology with a nod, a soft smile, and a promise to move forward, not backward. Later, as the ballroom lights dimmed and the evening came to a close, Monica stood by the window with Darius. Outside, the skyline sparkled. But it was the glow in her own heart that outshone everything. Darius wrapped his arm around her, his voice low. You were the brightest light in this room. She leaned into him. We both were. And they stood there, husband and wife, equals in power and purpose, having turned a night meant to shame into a memory that would echo with dignity. And as the final guests filtered out, heads bowed in humility, hearts heavier but wiser, one truth remained clear: Monica Reed had not just walked into a room tonight, she had transformed it. Forever. And everyone that knew they would never again judge a soul by its silence, its clothes, or its story. Because the quietest ones? They often carry the greatest strength. As the author of this story, I want to leave you with more than just a tale of public humiliation and redemption. I want to offer you a reflection, a truth that speaks to the heart of who we are as people and who we can choose to become. The story of Monica Reed is not just fiction. It's a mirror. A mirror reflecting the way society often rushes to judge others based on what they wear, where they come from, or how much they appear to own. It is all too easy to mistake humility for weakness or modesty for insignificance. But as you saw in this story, real strength, true elegance, comes not from diamonds or designer gowns, but from dignity, character, and the courage to rise when others try to tear you down. Monica walked into that ballroom with nothing but a handmade dress and a gift stitched with love. And she walked out with the respect of an entire room, not because she shouted or fought back, but because she held her ground with grace. She didn't let the cruelty of others define her worth. She didn't respond to hate with hate. She responded with strength, integrity, and forgiveness. That is the lesson I hope you carry with you. You are not defined by how the world sees you. You are defined by how you carry yourself through it. Whether you're overlooked in a crowded room, underestimated at work, or dismissed because of your background, always remember that your value does not depend on anyone else's validation. You have the power to stand tall in your truth, and when the time is right, that truth will shine brighter than any spotlight. To those who have ever been mocked, ignored, or humiliated, know this: you are not alone. And your story doesn't end in shame. It begins in resilience. And to those who have ever stood by silently while someone else was being ridiculed, I encourage you to reflect. Ask yourself, what could I have done differently? Because silence, too, has consequences. On behalf of U.S. Daily Story, thank you for listening to Monica's journey. If her strength inspired you, if her courage moved you, I hope you'll take a moment to share this story, to subscribe, and to reflect on the kind of world we want to build, one where dignity, kindness, and justice always have the final word. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and never let anyone make you feel small.